I'm going for the no-scopes.
I hope he's going for them too. He's by me.
I doubt it.
This round's all. Stay sharp for the next one.
Did you get it? What a beast.
I used to be huge. I used to be so into the Call of Duty series. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was the first multiplayer game I really threw my life into. I owe my channel to Call of Duty, honestly. That's what got me started on YouTube. Every year in November when the new Call of Duty came out, it'd always be on a Tuesday if I remember correctly. I would go out to the local game store at midnight and purchase the new Call of Duty for a midnight release. I'd go and I'd buy it at midnight with my brother, and then I used to go home and I used to play that new Call of Duty until like 6 in the morning, and I used to skip school the next day. And my parents were okay with it. I asked to skip school 2 times a year. It was for the annual Call of Duty so that I could stay up and play it when it came out after midnight release. And it was Oscars night. I used to stay up late and watch the Oscars with my mom because it would air at like 2 in the morning here. Those are the 2 days a year I used to skip school, and my parents were very chill about that. And I think they preferred that. They preferred me asking and doing something like that rather than going rogue, you know. But enough about my parents. Call of Duty, you know, was such a big part of my life. I played Call of Duty Modern Warfare. I think I have 70 days played on Xbox 360. COD 5, World at War, played that a crazy amount. Modern Warfare 2, when that came out, as you know, that really got my channel going. I made plenty of videos of it back in the day. And then Black Ops came out. I started losing interest in the Call of Duty slowly but surely. I know Black Ops is a great game, but it just wasn't the same to me. Black Ops, then Modern Warfare 3, Black Ops 2, you know, I was on and off at that point. I was playing a lot of other games. It lost my interest. But there was a few years in my life where I was super into the Call of Duty franchise. And I don't think I'm alone about that. I think there's a lot of people out there who had a relationship with Call of Duty for a few years. I think mine was rather early. I know that there's a lot of people who look very fondly at Black Ops, Modern Warfare 3, and I hear people talk about some of the later ones as well. I think everyone's had a relationship with Call of Duty at some point in their life that kind of stagnated after a while. I made an analogy in a recent video about Call of Duty games that you shouldn't get your hopes up. It's like waiting for a frog to say hello. It said hello once a decade ago. It was a magic frog. But all the frogs since have all said ribbit. And yet people keep waiting for the frog to say hello. Every year they come out with a trailer for the next COD, and I look at it and I'll say, this looks like fun. And I'll play it, queue a week later, and I'm already done with the game because it wasn't fun. Every year I'd keep hoping that this might reignite that flame, you know, that Call of Duty is like your ex-girlfriend, right? You know, you haven't seen her for 10 years and you remember all these fond memories. And then when you see her again, you expect that she's going to be different because you remember all the good times. And as soon as you play her, this analogy sucks, all right? As soon as you play it, get it, Pata? The balls! All those bad things are there instead. And all the good times, you've already had them. And you're just focusing on the bad things. And so the game just isn't the same as it used to be. Because it hasn't changed. They may have changed a bunch of small things, but the core gameplay, you've already done all of this. So it just isn't as fun. And after a few days of playing, a week, 2 weeks, a month, maybe 2 months, eventually you just go, you know what? This isn't what it used to be. And you go back to your other games. I recently went back to Modern Warfare 2 to see if I'd still have as much fun in it today as I did back then. Ah! Fuck. Who the fuck gets an AC-130 in free-for-all? What the hell is this? Oh my god. He named himself King. Now that's not to say I didn't enjoy myself playing it again, but all of these negative aspects that you have in Modern Warfare 2, dying by explosives and getting hit by kill streaks and just dying, it becomes more and more apparent and more annoying the more you play. And because the formula hasn't changed that much over the last few years, I've always been able to notice these negative aspects on day one of a new Call of Duty. Here's my very next game, by the way. Ha-ha! Fuck you, King! God, what a dick. When I look back at Call of Duty games, I think there's this balance between the rage and the fun. As in, how much fun are you having and how much are you raging? I like to keep things simple. And the game that has the absolute best ratio of that, to me, is Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare. I played that again today. Turns out the remastered on PC has like 50 people playing, so I didn't even bother installing that. But I noticed that there's quite a community in the non-remastered. They've added all these weird features to it. The color correction seemed different. I ended up playing quite a few games of Gun Game. You know, it's not the traditional COD 4 feeling, but I still had a fantastic time. On the other side of my Call of Duty obsession back then was Battlefield. I grew up playing on and off Battlefield games. Battlefield 2, back when I was, 12, 13, I used to go to internet cafes and just play the hell out of Battlefield 2. I basically just played one map in Battlefield 2, Strike at Kharkand, with no vehicles, ironically. The game's known for having vehicles, but that was a favorite of mine. I used to just play the crap out of that. And I had this on and off relationship with Battlefield. And the nice thing was that when I started losing interest in Call of Duty, Battlefield was there with open arms. They had the Bad Company series and Battlefield 3. These were games that I ended up playing the crap out of. And it was the opposite of what Call of Duty was to me. Call of Duty was this run and gun kind of straight up shooter with kill streaks. Whereas in Battlefield, you got to actually drive in these vehicles, and you didn't really do that in Call of Duty. There was this large scale action where they kept coming with these huge maps. I remember Battlefield 3, they came with a DLC at one point with this humongous desert map. And, it was the opposite to me. And it was just what I needed. It was just the refreshing kind of content I needed. When that Call of Duty formula got stale, I had this completely opposite Battlefield. And throughout the years with the Battlefield series, they would every now and then try to lure the Call of Duty players to play their game by coming with small close combat maps. They've done this a few times throughout their Battlefield games, and they've never quite succeeded with it. They've never quite succeeded getting the close combat formula correct. Battlefield games, they're good at this large-scale battle, but I never quite enjoyed the more close combat in their games. Meanwhile, you have the Call of Duty series. For many years, they stuck to the same formula of quite close combat, that COD formula, until last year when they tried out doing Battle Royale, and they tried going large scale. They came with this big map and this high player count, and it was the most I've played COD in a long time. It showed me that Call of Duty can work on a different scale, and I'd love to see what they could do with just two teams when it's not a Battle Royale, but they focus more on objective plays, more tactical maps and whatnot.
Take the hill from behind her. He's pushing now. Oh, he hit me a little.
Got him.
I'll finish this. Nice.
In 2016, they came out with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered. As someone who was a big fan of Call of Duty 4 back in the day, this was huge news to me. And I was extremely excited because it was going to have a fresh player base and it felt like we were just going back in time. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be. They combined Modern Warfare Remastered with that year's new Call of Duty. I think it was Infinite Warfare. And the only way to get Remastered was to get the special edition, or whatever it was called, of Infinite Warfare. So you had to pay, you know, something like $90 or something to play the remastered Modern Warfare. And they were playing with people's nostalgia. You know, they were thinking that if we do this, we're going to make a ton of money. The game from the start was screwed. They eventually came with the Variety Map Pack, the original DLC of 4 maps that they had for the first COD 4. They came with that for the remastered, and they sold that for another €15. Eventually, when it was too late and the player base was dead, they allowed you to separately purchase Modern Warfare Remastered for like €40. It was doomed to fail from the start. It really just sucked ass. With all of that said, I still played it. I've got 34 hours playtime in it. So I know what it's like for the developers to play with your nostalgia to get you to buy a new Call of Duty. And so when this year's Call of Duty got announced, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, immediately I had red flags popping up in my head, because I've been down that road. They come with all of these nostalgic references, and then when it finally comes out, it's a disappointment, right? There aren't that many multiplayer games coming out this year that I am excited about. In fact, the only multiplayer shooter that's on my list of interest is Call of Duty Modern Warfare. So I'm kind of forced to look at it, especially considering that I'm a YouTuber and a Twitch streamer. I need to always find new games to play. And so it's kind of the elephant in the room staring at me. In previous years, I've always kind of tried them, but I'll have had a Battlefield or Rainbow Six Siege. I've had other games to play. This year, Call of Duty Modern Warfare is standing there naked, staring right into my eyes, and I'm forced to look back and study it. I'm forced to look down the body, look at its scars, look at its features, and see what I think about it. And so that's what I did, and I was actually quite surprised.
Oh, I forgot there was a window there. I'm sorry, dude. I fucking
dude, easy.
I messed you up. Easy.
Let's send them home.
You stupid. That's no scoping. Left? No way. What'd you do?
This weekend they've got an open alpha, quote unquote. It's it's not an alpha. They just call it that because it's the beta before the beta. It's only on PS4. So I thought I'd try it out. It's 2v2s. I played it with my friend Flash, and I actually had a fantastic time. The weapons feel a lot grittier. They feel dirty. There's a kickback in the weapons that I haven't seen before in Call of Duty. It just reminded me of playing COD back when I was younger. It's tough with Call of Duty because you could have this sense of fun for the first few days, and then everything goes down the shitter. But I will say that my experience playing these 2v2s was a lot of fun. As for the rest of the game, they've said that the campaign's going to be a lot darker. There's going to be a moral gray area involved. I believe they said there's a mission where you play as a child soldier, which sounds intense. That sounds very... sounds like it's going to get pretty real. As for the multiplayer, other than this 2v2 game mode with the smaller maps, they're going to have the normal Call of Duty game modes with normal sized maps. And then they're actually coming with large-scale maps, which they're calling battle maps. There's a 20v20 game mode confirmed. They've talked about 64 players and 100 players, but I'm not sure that's confirmed that they're actually doing that. I think they've just talked about that it's possible. They're coming with night maps. The radar is removed. You can only get the radar when you have the UAV kill streak. You know, they're changing up a lot of things from previous years, more so than they have in the past when they come with new stuff. Usually they just say, oh, well, this year's futuristic. You have this cool new gadget. And it just sucks, you know? This year, it feels good. All of these things make it sound like a lot more gritty, realistic, different, refreshing, dark, modern Call of Duty. I've been down this road so many times where I look at what's coming up and I say, oh, this looks like it might actually be fun. But this year feels different to me. We can only wait and see. until the day comes, release day, October 25th. But I am hopeful that the frog might say hello.